Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Night Garden. As you can see, this is not my art. This is Ledge's, and this is not an official Noob versus Pro, but Ledge asked me to fix his avatar colors so that it looked a little bit nicer when it was popping up on the screen during the Noob versus Pro series that we've been doing. So that's what we're doing today.
Yay.
I'm going to turn on the paper layer here and immediately change this to gray. You see how much brighter that looks already?
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things that we're going to want to do is we base our colors off of logo that we have. I can speak, I swear. So let me grab that logo. And then I'm just going to throw it in here on its own layer. So then we can kind of see what it looks like against those colors, right?
Okay.
So you see how this green is causing a tension with this green? If we're using, even in that light color, it's causing a big tension with this. It makes it feel angry and really bright, right? So we want something that will mesh well with that green. Also, if I pull this down, this orange really does not play well with... It plays better with this green than it does with this green. But we may want to change that color a little bit too.
Okay.
So I'm going to turn off your... Oh my god.
My colors!
Your colors here. And we'll turn off the outline and just leave your line work.
Okay.
And then I'm going to copy it and paste it in here. So now I just have it there.
Gotcha.
One of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it so that it's going to reference your line work on any layer that we put underneath.
That's how that works.
Yep. So now I'm just going to take the same color that we have in the background here and fill your outer lines. And I'm going to use the lasso fill tool to fill that inner spot that didn't get filled.
Sure.
So now,
snug.
If I turn this off, yeah, I'll get the slug in a minute. If I turn this off, you can see we have an even coverage. So now we should be able to fill in over top of this without having to deal with trying to stay in the lines, okay? The way that we're going to do that is when we make a new layer. And I noticed when you were drawing this that you kept kind of interchanging between these two. You want to stick with this one.
I wasn't interchanging. I was always picking that one. I just was scrolling over to the other one being like, wait, which one is it?
So this one is a vector layer, which this is really good for line work, but you can't use it for anything that you're filling. So
yeah, I've never used the vector line or vector layer. So
vector layers, you can use them. Some people do, some people don't. I personally don't because I just kind of smudge everything together anyway. And I like thick areas of dark in my line work when I do line work, so that I need to use the fill tool for that.
Yeah.
But do you see this red line here?
I do now. So
what I did was I just clicked this button here. That turns this layer into a clipping mask, which means that it will fill anything based on the layer beneath it. So if I just take this color here and fill it, now it's filling based on your lines and on that layer beneath it. So now you don't have to worry about scribbling outside of the lines.
Now he is a Heartless.
Kinda, with that off black. So you want a green. I'm assuming you want something that's more of like a plant green. but we'll want to kind of match it to this green. So I'm going to edge this into the more yellowish greens here, but I'm going to keep it in this range here. You actually have yours set up to look like the square instead of the triangle. So I'll switch to square for this, but I'm staying in this very desaturated kind of area.
Okay.
The reason why I'm doing that is because if I take... Let me switch to a solid brush here, because I know that you don't like the transparent brush. If I take that color versus this color, which this is closer to what you picked, you see how much that fights, and by doing that, let me turn off this mask, how much it fights that as well, even though it's closer to that color on the color wheel. It's not as angry as the color that you picked here. But do you see how much nicer that is on the eye than this, and how much nicer this is than this?
Yeah.
So the reason why it is based on what's behind it is because of this green is a cool green, and this purple is a cool purple. So there's blue tones in this green that are heavier than the yellow tones. The yellow tones in the green that you picked are fighting with the blue tones of the green that is in our logo. So...
because instinct hates mystic, and mystic hates instinct.
It has nothing to do with Pokemon Go.
You think that, but...
So... I'm just gonna fill him with that color. Do you like?
Seafoam boy.
Do you like that color?
It's very, like I said, seafoamy. And I don't think that I like it.
Okay. So we're going to edge more into that yellow, but we're gonna pull it darker into this kind of muted range here, because that darkness looks much better with the blue tones.
Yeah.
Because when you're pulling into the grays, you're adding blues in, even though you're not keeping it saturated. So that has to do with something called color relativity, which I'm not going to go into right now. I'll talk to you about that when you're a little bit more solid on your feet when it comes to color theory. But essentially, that green is...
That's a much nicer green.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot better.
So we'll also, in order to differentiate these leaves, leaves tend to be greener than the saplings. So I just pulled this up just slightly, and I went lighter in my value so that we have that light green. It doesn't fight with this darker green, and it should still look nice on our logo colors. So I'll pull that down to make sure. But do you see how much less that fights than that yellowish green you had? All right. So then the next thing that I'm going to show you how to do is we're going to address this orange. I'm going to hide this for a minute so that I can color pick this. Actually pull your solid color there. And then we're going to hide this and bring this back. So this actually works pretty well with this green. And that
doesn't make sense.
It does make sense, but it's too saturated for a bark. Do you get what I'm saying? If you want something to actually look like a bark, I'm going to make a new layer here and make sure that it's still clipped to the layers below. You're going to want something that is a lot darker, maybe a little bit more into the red, and a lot less saturated. So we can go a little bit lighter if you want that orange to show through, but you want something definitively brown. Now, if you want something, the way that you tried to color this
Mm-hmm.
was with just doing a gradual erase.
Mm-hmm.
There is something in your gradient tools that is a foreground to transparent. So I have this color set to my foreground. Now, all I need to do is pull up.
That looks so nice.
Right? It looks a lot nicer. If I select this, actually, let me just select this. And then I'm going to press Alt. You can't do this on the thing because you don't have a keyboard, but
Nope.
if you press Alt, you can deselect. So now I don't even need to like worry about that. So now everything is selected. And if I do it this way, I can make my gradient, and then I can move it.
The green is leaving.
Yeah, I'll fix that in a minute. So I'm just going to do same thing. I'm grabbing this. And then I'm just deleting. And then I'm grabbing this, deleting. And now I've moved that where I wanted it to be. It's a lot smoother. And you've got, a really nice setup.
Yeah.
So then I really liked what you did with your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Those could probably stay with how you have this. So I'm going to copy this and see how that looks. No. Yeah, that looks pretty good.
Yeah.
One of the things that we'll want to do, though, is because those scleras are open, we'll want to probably make those the same color as your leaves, I'm thinking, because they're really bright.
Yeah, they were slightly off a lighter green, I think, than those ones originally were.
Right. So I'm just using... I'm using my lasso fill tool because you have an open gap.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can clean it up with our brush tool. Now, this yellow...
Sunflower!
This yellow looks really good with this green.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it's one of the ones that's like, if you had like a purple, you'd be going about here. And then right here and right here, that's a triad.
Yep.
So you've got those three colors would look good together. That's why this purple looks pretty nice with this green. Because that green is in this area more of a teal. And then this purple would likely look good with an orange. So basically making an equilateral triangle.
Yeah, so which Triforce piece is this? Is this wisdom, power, or courage?
This has got to be courage. It's the green one.
It's the green one!
Okay, so your inner mouth, you had that as a dark green. So I'm going to come back to this green. And typically when you go darker, you want to become more saturated.
You know, it's funny that I went darker green because thinking about an actual plant, if you cut into a plant, it's actually going to be a lot lighter.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what it would look like as a lighter color and as a darker color.
Okay, well, we can easily do that. So I'm going to make a new layer underneath. I do all of my colors on new layers because it makes my life easier. So we're just going to fill. And then that's a pretty nice dark green. You could probably even go darker.
Yeah, I think I was darker. I think I had closer to that color.
Yeah. but this is just a little bit.
Looks weird.
It's a little bit greener than blue than what you had. It does look weird, but if we want to, generally when you go darker when you're drawing, you want to add saturation, and then when you go lighter, you take away saturation, which is opposite to how your eyes actually take in light. Because like when you're looking at something and you have a bright light on it, it goes very close to white, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you're going into your shadows, it goes more into the grays by your eye. When you're drawing, if you add your shadows, if you add saturation to your shadows, then it adds an extra pop to things. So it's a stylistic thing, but it's what I prefer to do. So that being said, let's see what this looks like as lighter. I'm also going to pull it a little bit closer to the yellow. I think that looks kind of weird.
Can it go with a little bit more gray to it? Or darker slightly? Can we pull it down a little bit?
Because if you go too close, then it's going to look like your skin.
Yeah.
So we could darken this a little bit if you'd like.
What?
I did color the scleras on top of that layer.
You fool.
I know, right? So I'm going to pull this. As I go darker, you notice I'm also slightly going more blue.
Mm-hmm.
That
feels too dark.
That is too dark. So
What?
Oh God. I like that, but I still don't like the mouth. So let's when I can't figure out exactly just by color picking, I pulled up this. This is your hue, saturation, luminosity. So the way that you get to that, I used a shortcut to just do it. That's Control U on your keyboard. But since you don't have that on the iPad, you want to come up to Edit, Tonal Correction, Hue, Saturation, Luminosity.
Okay.
So this is the thing that you were talking about that you couldn't figure out what I did. That allows you to change your colors.
Yeah.
So, I think actually what might look the best is if we go into that reddish orange range, pull the luminosity way down, and then pull the saturation way down. Because this almost mirrors the bark color. But instead of doing it that way, I'm going to pull the color we actually used for the bark, which I think is this guy. And then part of why this looks really weird is because you don't have any shading here. So one of the things that we're going to do is we are going to make a new layer. Actually, let's copy that layer. If you pull that layer up to here, then it automatically copies that layer for you. So just grab it and pull up to that.
Okay.
And then we're going to pull up our hue and saturation menu. And we're going to pull that darker and less saturated, because that pulls us into the blues, right? And then we're going to...
This green feels really seafoamy again.
Okay.
We made them lighter, and it's back to feeling kind of seafoamy. Especially with the green of the light greener of the leaves, it's making it seem really just foamy. If that makes sense.
How's that? see, the more that I go more towards that yellow, the more it fights this.
Mm-hmm. Can you go, like, darker, though?
Yeah, I can go darker.
Because, like, I think it was more so, like, this color that we were at, where it was like, oh, that looks nice.
You like this color?
Yeah, I think I like that color better than the kind of
Okay.
brighter...
So I'm going to pull this color again, and I'm just going to bring those leaves back to that color. Now, the leaves are bluer than him at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want them to be bluer?
I thought you said that they should be greener.
They should be greener. But the thing is, the closer I go to yellow, the more it's going to fight. So you have to be aware of what it's surrounding.
Mm-hmm. They're such small details, though.
It's still going to fight. So, that looks decent.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do that. Another thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to change your line color. So now I've made it an off-black purple. Just to kind of go with what we've got going on back there. So, what I was going to do before we went and changed those leaf colors is I was going to take a transparent brush, and I'm just going to... You could do this with a eraser as well. Just going to kind of follow what you've got going on here and make a loose shadow. I need to fix this a little bit. Now, I could be super technical and use like masks and stuff like that so that I'm not being destructive, because when you use something like an eraser or a clear brush or something like that, you're actually erasing the pixels, and it's harder to fix once you're done erasing. But if you use like a mask or something like that, then it doesn't actually erase anything, and it keeps it uniform, and you can just kind of erase and add on top of that without actually losing any of that color. So that looks a lot nicer, right? I think actually we're going to shift this a little bit more into the blue range. And we're going to take this one kind of mess with that a little bit so that it's a lot lighter and a lot less saturated. So then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to assume a lighting direction, right? So the easiest thing to do for a light direction with something like this is to just pick one. And let's say that sprig is like outside or something. So like a plant.
Wow.
Wow. So we're going to say our light is coming this way. Okay. So then all of our shadows are going to hit the opposite side of where that light is hitting. So we're going to grab this color. We're going to pull it a little bit into the blue, and then we're going to pull it down a little for a shadow. And then we are going to make a new layer. And we're going to just start making shapes along the undersides of things. So I'm going to actually take this color, and I'm going to switch this to a multiply and lower the opacity. That way, when we get over top of the brown, it's still going to shade
and match the color
and match the color better. Yeah. So the way that you have this drawn, you have like little wrinkle lines here. So we're gonna add a little bit of shading here, And then I'm gonna assume that he's got like a little bit of an outcropping there, like his original design does. We're just gonna like design our shapes here. So these I can fill. That didn't work. Hey. Why didn't you work?
It's open at the top.
That is why. Good catch, babe. All right. So then that is going to stay like that. You've got shadows on your eyelids. Because these are creasing out, right? So then you'd probably have shadows underneath the eye, like this. I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow here, kind of like his nose is pushed like a diamond, a little bit out of his face. You can tell me no, this is your avatar, but I'm just showing you what I would do, essentially. So this side is kind of facing away from our light source. So you'd have a stronger shadow on this side. So let's say that this is our rough shadow shape here.
That changes so much.
Right?
Just with that one little bit.
Yeah. And then for your leaves, we've got the stem is going to have a little bit of a cast shadow here. And then this is the side away from the light. And then for this one, same thing. You've got a little bit of a cast shadow from your stem, but this is already away from the light, so we're just going to go like that. That's about as simple as you can go for shading. On this side, you'd probably want to also have another shadow here. Because remember, everywhere that your light is hitting
is not our kingdom.
is where you'd go. So, like, this would be... Oops. I'm on the wrong layer.
You fool!
It happens. So, this is roughly the shape that we had before. Let's fill that in. Why did that do that?
It's not open. Cut at the top again.
All right. There we go.
It's not closed at the top again.
Listen, I know that my lines are messy, but stop it. Okay. I'm going to actually extend this one a little bit. And then we're going to add that little bump for the nose. And there we go. With your shading, it looks so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just need to figure out your snail, which I really liked the color for your snail.
Me too.
So let's just copy that and we can bring this up. It looks a lot brighter now, even though it's the same color, because it's a warm color on top of a cool green. So I think it'll still work. I would actually take with this color. What I would do is I would make that. I'm gonna grab this color. I'm gonna edge it more into the orange, and I'm gonna make it more of a saturated color. because that'll play better with this green. And then we'll take this, throw in some eyes, and then we'll take like a really light yellow for those scleras because you don't want to go pure white. And then I'm just going to take this color and we're going to do a new color or a new layer, make it a clipping mask, and multiply and lower the opacity. And remember, our light is coming this way, but because of this right here being in the way, this is going to be blocking your light. So our light is hitting here, but then it would block right here. So your snail is actually going to have some shadow here and then some shadow on this side. So when we do this, we're going to want shapes that kind of curve to show the curve of the thing. And also fairly high because of this.
About as high as the snail right now.
Right? This snail is zooted.
Zoot? Zoot?
Zoot, zoot. Alright. So then I'm going to just kind of make like almost a V shape here. And then we're going to shade this side of the eye stalks. And the nice thing about using a multiply layer is that I'm doing this all with one color, right? I don't need to think as much.
That's super, super nifty.
Right? So then we'll pull this kind of down, and then we'll just kind of mirror that shape. I'm actually going to erase that a little bit. But then you've got the illusion that your eye stalks are creating a shadow and that your snail is partially in shadow, right? I'm also going to take that color that we took earlier and come back over here and just kind of add a slight shadow. Just to keep that consistent. And now the last couple of things that we want to do, we want to add a little bit of a shadow here, a little bit of a shadow here. If you wanted to get really fancy, you could add some highlights.
The scleras are also not the same color.
You're right. We'll fix that in a minute. We'll also add some shading under the upper eyelid. Like, I'm not being super super careful. These are not perfect shapes, but like you get the general idea of what I'm doing. Just gonna take this color and make that even. There we go. Did you want to add a couple of highlights?
You need to fill in the shines on his eyes.
Yeah.
Because those are transparent right now, and you can see the colors changing on the videos. Video where he is.
Well, they're not transparent anymore. They're dark gray.
Yeah. Because
I filled in that layer underneath. But yeah, I can definitely fill those in.
No, they can't be pure white.
That's the only thing that you want to be pure white, actually.
Then you lied to me.
No, the highlights are the only thing that's pure white in a face.
Okay.
Yep. but we're gonna add a really quick highlight on some of your highest points here. And the way that I'm gonna do that is I'm going to
use the divide layer.
Nope. We're gonna use screen.
Screen.
So I have this green selected. And then we're going to just kind of give him an upper diamond here. And then we're going to lower the opacity. And this is the one thing that I'm going to smudge. And then you could add a couple more shines, but really the only place that you absolutely need it is the nose. So, if you're happy with this, it's done.
Yeah, I think that looks so much nicer.
All right, so I'm going to, last finishing touch here, grab this. But what I'm going to do, this is the white outline. I'm going to expand it further because it wasn't big enough. So I'm going to expand it by 10 pixels. And that should be better.
Yay!
And then let's get rid of the logo. And there we go.
Look at that guy!
Now, you can take this and try and do your own colors if you want to. Now that I've... the look he just gave me. Or this could just be your new avatar, but it's up to you.
I think this is nice.
Okay. I will save it then. And I'll send you the other one so that you can put it in the videos afterwards and stuff.
Excellent. Yeah, so if you haven't watched the Newb versus Pro series that we have going on, this is in regards to earlier this week's episode where we made avatars of ourselves. And so, yeah, go see my awful creation of this creature.
No self-deprecation on my channel.
Wow.
You did a good job. For not knowing anything about color theory or anything like that, you did a really good job. This is the point of this, is like, of course I know how to do this, but I have however many years experience, right? Like, I've been drawing since I was like 4 years old and studying it seriously since 2009, which is too many years to count. So, like, of course, you know, I'll know intuitively. And this was like the most simple shapes that I could do, right? Like,
yeah.
I could go super in depth and turn this into a super realistic monster, but that wouldn't be genuine to your design. So, you know, it's just a matter of starting to learn those things. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah, exactly. Woohoo!
Woohoo! Okay, everybody. Thanks for watching. I hope that you take care of yourselves, drink your water, and do what you can. We love you guys. Bye.
Bye!